Hello, I just wanted to give you a little tour of some of the things that I'd found up to this point. I'm very happy to meet with you still, but I thought on a Friday I should get something out there to you because I think it's been about a month since we talked. So I had two suggestions for building your curriculum. The first one, and this is going to work in many of the different catalogs that you're going to run into, including the public library. When you just do a search, you can, ours is called USearch, but if you put it in quotes, so for example, Cold War, and you can do this on Amazon, you can do this on Google Books. There's a lot of different ways, but the thing you're going to be looking for is books at the outset, because we were looking for the chapter in a book that might be a good one, and then do sort by date newest. There's different ways of doing this in different catalogs. Now we've got a bunch of ebooks, so when you come up here, if you don't have a UNID, you're going to have to ask for a guest pass, and if you have trouble accessing any of these, then maybe that's the moment where you and I could meet. But when you're looking at all of the different books, you can see what's available in the library, or these are the ebooks. But you can go specific collections. So if you wanted to get out of some of the more technical ones, so say for example, if they were talking about medicine heavy in one of the issues you were looking at, you could do that. You can go down to subjects as well and know that that book is specifically on the Cold War. And so all of those different ways of narrowing it down are great, but the reason that you do the date newest is because there's always stuff coming in as documents maybe are declassified by the government or whatnot. But here's one that I just wanted to show you, just kind of happy thing. If it's checked out, don't worry about that. We can recall books. But when you go into the details, typically what you'll see is the table of contents. If it's not easy to track those down, then try looking maybe on Amazon or maybe some of these other places like the virtual browse, but you should have access to the table of contents. And then what you would do as an instructor is you would look for a chapter that looks really good. So if you're interested in the story of somebody who is a diplomat or whatnot, that might be really good. All of these actually look really good. This might be a good one to do. You can email yourself these books as you find them, so you don't necessarily have to be scratching it down on a piece of paper. So that's the library catalog. If you wanted to find the books, you can ask anyone at any of the reference desks, how do I find this particular one? So if you came armed with a bunch of call numbers, you could go out to this section. D842 is a history section, and you could just find a lot of books related on that topic once you find one good one. So that's a good way to do it. Some of these are interesting looking. I don't know. I love looking at all things like that. So a second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is we're looking for articles to read. When we're looking at articles, especially for like high school students, we don't necessarily want to go into the scholarly stuff because those might be a little bit too dry. I can obviously show you that, but the things that I'm going to show you in this database are more intermediary. So kind of long form journalism is what we would call it. In our databases, this is something that you could also find at the public library in different subscriptions. But ours, I think a good place to start would be a general database. And under A, we have something called Academic Search Premier. This is something that I'd recommend to your students while they were doing research as well. We do this for Writing 2010. In Academic Search Premier, it's a database, kind of like a bucket full of all this information ranging from popular things like People magazine all the way up to like the Journal of the American Medical Association. So if you did a search for Cold War without any clicking any of these ways of narrowing down your search, you'd get everything under the sun, and there'd be quite a few. So I wanted to show you my favorite tips for getting things specifically for what you were looking for, that curriculum. Full text is one. I'm not going to click on scholarly peer-reviewed because that's where you get into the really heavy-duty stuff that's challenging to read. There is a way where you can put in the number of pages. If you wanted to avoid the really fluff, easy to generate things, then you would just do greater than 2 pages. Then we get into that long form journalism. You could do the name of a publication if you wanted to, but I leave it open. Publication type. Newspapers are good, but when we're looking for that longer form again, periodical is what we're looking for. And then I'm going to do my same search again. Cold War. And then it'll find this as a specific keyword instead of cold in one instance and war in another one. So I still have 8,003. When you're in here, one last thing that I would recommend is on the facets on the left, you can narrow it down by publication date. So if you wanted to find something that was like really old, like the first instance of the word, or something from a particular era, this is how instructors will sometimes find something, a sample from each decade. So something from the 70s and something from the 80s. So that might be fun to get some commentary on Ronald Reagan during his heyday. But the one that I would click on is magazines. And that narrows it down a great deal. And then again, I would go by the date newest. But again, you could go into those date ranges. So what we have here is a list of things that are sometimes fun to read, like Entertainment Weekly, or sometimes it might be a political-oriented journal or magazine. So you have to be careful of those. But I think you might find some things in here that would be interesting. New Yorker, you can see if a magazine is going to lean left or right. You could get these different attitudes. Time Magazine is pretty reliable. Defense Journal, it's kind of fun. All sorts of different things. If you wanted to just see those publications specifically, there's a facet for that. Sounds like an app ad. But if you wanted to get these specific journals, you could go that way as well. And just click on the ones that you think are good. Or you could omit the ones that you didn't think were good. There's a lot of ways of narrowing it down. But here, let me show you one of them. Oh, teaching history. So this is something that might inform your students or it might inform your research. But this is how projects on Cold War are taught. And this is great because you know that it's current. It's something that was just published probably this year. Yeah, it was just a couple months ago in March 2017. When you come up to the university, or if you have a UNID, all of these have the ability to email an article as well. So you don't necessarily have to slog through and print these out by any means. So let's start with that, and then I'd be happy to meet with you still, but let me know if this is a good place to start and we can keep on going. I've got a couple of ideas, but I think these are the two mainstream starting points that I found a lot of good stuff on all of the topics that you're interested in. Hope you have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you later.